Good afternoon, free enterprise fans. Well, except for those of you who are still in the morning time zones. I am Alicel, and I am here for the final race of the week, and I am joined by the Flurry14. How are you doing today, Flurry?
I actually got up out of bed at this point in time. I'm mildly surprised I managed to make it. Yeah, very, very excited for this particular matchup we have. And not in a, this would have been the race I was in kind of salty way. Yes, I'm salty, but these are still two absolutely fantastic runners. Coffee and Chocobos, I think if you asked most people, was one of the favorites to advance very, very far in this tournament. PlumeriaKnight has put in several consecutive excellent tournament showings over our past few events, so I think this one's going to be a banger. Looking at the boss list that we have, this particular flag set, if this is your first time, our objective is to clear 7 of the 8 bosses on the Red Moon flag set. We have curated this flag set to be, or this boss list to be as interesting as possible. Any of these jump out at you, Allie?
Um, Honestly, depending on the spot, I think the easiest of this might be those D-Lunars with that Cecil start.
Yeah, D-Lunars is one of those where I think it's a decision whether or not you want to go all the way to Lunar Frogs. We will cross that froggy bridge when we get there. I am always happy when I'm running to not see Ogopogo, bless its heart. Don't have to actually go through and take that monster down. Evil Wall, always a jerk. Uh, let's hope we don't see him at King Queen spot. Um, but Cecil start. That's another interesting part of this particular flag set. You're going to get one of 3 starting characters: Cecil, Edge, or Fu. And while it does lean toward more practiced strategies for one particular character, I kind of think over the course of practice that Cecil has been the more varied of the 3 starts. What have you noticed over the course of watching some of these matches, how Cecil starts tend to go?
It all depends on that trap chest loot. You get a crystal sword, things are great. You get a rune axe, you question life decisions. But we are off, and today we have a white mage. White mages are great. Joining that Cecil and starting immediately with that hook.
Yeah, you're never sad to see a white mage. Obviously, Rosa gives you almost a guaranteed win condition when it comes to the Z fight, as it pertains to levels. I am interested to see, especially on CNC's side, what the pathing is with a starting hook. I know a lot of runners will have varied approaches as opposed to when they want to get that hook, mostly because that shop, which has uh, 2 gated items, could have hourglasses, could have sirens, although I think the former is the more important part. Could get an early Eblan check. I know CC was probably the only runner I saw to actually take an Eblan clear with actual DKC. On the other hand, in Mysidia, it's betrayal time. It's Kane.
And it is also a Palom. Palom, and there's a Rosa on CNC side. This is shaping up to be a pretty good party, all things considered.
Yeah, Porum, I'm sorry, but you're, unless you are anchoring, probably not going to see too much of hers. There's a world out there where double white mage strats can absolutely work and be optimal. But we are on T Pro, which means the quality of the treasure chest that we are going to get are weighted according to locations. And as far as anchoring goes, probably not going to see Porum do that, because now we got ourselves a Tella. This is almost about as good a party as I think you could hope for.
Yeah, that Tella just pushing us even more to get that Dark Knight Cecil up Ordeals. Looks like Plumeria doing a little bit deeper of a dive on loot. Whereas CNC, getting that hovercraft, checking Waterfall, I did not see what that boss was.
I believe it was the Dark Imps. So I'm a little back and forth on checking that particular spot at this point in time. On one hand, yes, you get the information. That information is super valuable. On the other hand, you're going to be back in this area when you have to pull the hook to get the hook route. But PlumeriaKnight did bring the hook back over to Eblan. So we'll probably be checking this. Sure enough, the only reason I'm not 100% on it is if it is a boss, I'd like to only have to make one trip. So I generally only want to take that spot when I know I can actually finish the job. And while the offense in that particular spot is very meager, it is both fast and has a lot more HP than you would expect at that level in the game, couple thousand. So if it's something like Demist, you're taking that on with a party that's hoping to do victory by 1,000 cuts, it is not going to be a good time. So we'll see. Having Tella on board does also open the possibility of a slingshot. Whether or not our runners want to play for the possibility of getting that early Darkest Crystal or not, we shall see. Palom is pretty good on his own without a slingshot. So that can be a little bit of a risk. And sure enough, as CNC did in his the last match of his I commentated, is doing Eblan right now.
Well, and PlumeriaKnight, actually dumping that Dark Knight Cecil, went ahead and took 2 White Mages and Tella and a Palom. Maybe looking to wait until we've finished Ordeals to pick that Cecil back up.
Yeah, that's a good call. Cecil, as a Dark Knight, when it comes to offense, has very little. It's kind of like when I watch Jet football on Sundays. You're just not going to get a lot of offense. If you do, it's a pleasant surprise, but otherwise, there's very little expectations of it. So I think it makes sense. I've seen runners will like swap out Cecil for Sid. Sid's has that HP pool that'll get you through the scary part of Ordeals. But hey, we've got D-Lunars at, I believe this is Antlight Cave, so that's another one down.
Yep. And not really the spot you want to see your easiest required boss, I think.
Yeah, I think if you are going to see a required boss there, just kind of going to the earlier point, as long as it's something that you... Oh, this is Antlight Cave. What am I thinking? I think you're happy to just be able to take it out in one go. But yeah, good on PlumeriaKnight for also having the awareness to utilize the Flame Spear from Kain as an item, utilizing the fire weakness. One reason that one would want to keep Palom around, even with the roses, it does give access to Twin Cast, so that is an exceptionally strong spell when utilized correctly for the early game. So off to Hobbs we go. Let's see if this is another boss that we want.
And definitely been a theme in this tournament where our runners have forgotten Hobbs. So PlumeriaKnight not going to do that. Does find a Baigen there, though. Was that Baigen?
Yeah, bye Baigen. There are some times where you might want to actually take that experience. If it's a boss that's fast, Baigen is not that. We're not here to arm grind, so off to Ordeals we go. CNC that with a little bit of a risk, and frankly with PlumeriaKnight too a little bit, taking on the Ordeals fights with base character levels, it certainly can be done. Twin is going to go a long way toward this, and this is where you will see the sirens come into play that come stock with the Freedom Kit. So, Ali, how do you kind of feel about this? Are you a fan of taking sirens before the Ordeals fight, after to put the XP on Cecil, or not at all and save it for later?
I really like, especially if you start with 3 sirens, I really like at least using 1 siren to go ahead and get a little bit of levels. Although with something like Ogopogo, that's at least when you're at base level, you don't have as much HP.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, yeah, you don't want to take a high HP character to the giant because having to cure up Yang with 1500 HP can be kind of a pain in the butt. Fortunately, so Ogo, one of Ogo's many annoyances, is that he'll counter magic with a blaze that does 20% of your max HP, which on top of the 50% he already chops off can be particularly annoying. However, Twin Cast does not trigger that counter, so this is about as friendly a situation as we are going to find Ogopogo that you're going to get. Experience is fine, and I like Plumeria here, kind of seeing how far can we leverage Twin Cast. Let's save if we run up into a boss where we really need those levels. Sure, let's use it. But I think both strategies are valid. And this is one of the bosses where you worry about taking a base level party up Ordeals.
This is miserable. This is miserable. There's nothing fun about this spot with this boss.
Yeah, 3000 HP, maintains a wall up, is in the back row, so is going to get defensive bonuses. Our only real means of attacking it would be Rosa's aim command and jump, cane, jump. He's got a flame spear, but CNC probably knows there's probably going to get a little bit of an advantage here just because of the levels on cane. That's going to be the difference between, I think 2 or 3 jumps. And okay, is going to risk a Twin Cast here. Comet is generally what you would want to see. Flare will be reflected. How that works, I'm not entirely sure, but here comes the globe. This is CPU when he's angry.
Yeah, yeah. And then gonna go ahead, definitely want to get those life ones out. Otherwise, as soon as those attackers come out, less characters in the queue mean that attacker goes vroom and can quickly overwhelm your party.
Yeah, it's going to do 10% of your max HP. Fortunately, the lower HP, and I think the Sorkro picked up earlier, works a little bit in Palom's favor. He will be able to take one of the Mazers, but now all that damage you got from the Comet is being healed. This fight can be just particularly annoying. I think another possible strategy would be to bluff up Palom and then dispatch the both of the front orbs and then immediately go into a queued Ice 2 or Lit 2. But like this spot also has magic defense, like it has some, and Rosa doing 28 damage. It's not fun. So CNC getting the early levels via Sirens, it's going to help quite a bit. Now I wonder, does CNC actually go all the way to Quake? Palom gets it at 23, but that's also quite a bit of time.
He's at 21 right now, so not particularly that far off, and saw orbs and immediately started popping more Sirens. I think he's going straight to Quake.
Yeah, Quake is... you can make an argument for one of the spells in the game. You can make an argument for Quake being the very best just because of how useful it is over such a large swath of the game. And now that I think about it, did CNC pick up Sirens from the Hook shop? Because I feel like there's taken a lot of Lilith fights.
Yes. I think he found Sirens there in the Hook shop, bought some number of them, and is now just leveraging them, and probably will have to go ahead and buy more.
I think CNC will happily do so. This is an example of that early hook check and that early shop check 100% paying off. Even though Plumeria is going to get out of Ordeals first, now that Palom is at Quake, is frankly done with leveling purposes for the immediate future. Nothing on the overworld is going to be scary, and honestly may not even need to level up for the inevitable hook fight, depending on who it is that we see. And should CNC decide to take on Eblan, as you had mentioned, in the search for a Holy Sword, Quake is basically going to one turn 2 of those 3 fights. So always love to see something like that paying off. Let's see who boss number 3 is, because we've already seen 2 bosses. This could be relatively quick.
But we did see Karate here in the 3rd spot. Very quick fight. I do think that CNC with that Quake going to make up quite a bit of time that he spent doing that grind. But we'll see where PlumeriaKnight goes next. If he wants to leave that Cecil down and hope to find something to slingshot him, or if going to go ahead and pick up that Dark Knight or that now Paladin Cecil.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting call. Baron Inn doesn't give a whole lot of experience, so I think if you're operating under the notion of I'm going to save Cecil for when I can give him significant experience, you could make the argument that you do Baron Inn first, but it looks like PlumeriaKnight's going to go ahead and grab Cecil now, which is totally reasonable. Yeah, that karate fight, I blinked and it was over. So, hello, Cecil. Welcome back to the party. Twincast says pretty much worn out its welcome. So, Porum likely the character to go here, and let's see what the decision is next. Back in the day, in tournament races, fading Fabul before a hook check was a potentially dangerous ploy, because if it had the magma key, you might find yourself doing an unnecessary hook route. Hook route is guaranteed here, so that's not going to be an issue. But Ali, how do you feel about skipping off on the Fabul check before doing the hook route?
There is nothing in this world I love more than single dipping Fabul. Well, except for maybe single dipping tower as soon as you do the hook route. I also like the Enterprise breaking through the mountain.
That's yes. That is absolutely fair. It's a dangerous thing to do, right? Like on one hand, if you get underground first, and especially if you have access to like if we pull a pan, then I think it makes sense. But as Chad is mentioning, like there are 2 key items that if you see in the overworld that you faded, you are very much concerned about. The first is the Darkness Crystal. With Tella in the party, that is time that your opponent might be demachining. Oh, hello, another boss, Odin. This will be quick. The other would be the Earth Crystal with access to the treasury. It is much less likely to pull a T8 Holy Sword, but it can happen. And anytime that you have a Cecil and you do not have a Holy Sword is time I think you feel behind. And fortunately for these runners, these bosses were not swapped, because Val here in the first spot is deadly and incredibly difficult to hit. Val in this spot will blend, so no worries here.
And definitely our runners are probably liking to see this Val here rather than required up on the moon or blocking something on the giant.
So, of all the bosses that let's say we're doing, let's say we're checking the Mist Cave and the Waterfall for bosses that you don't have to fight when you see them. Is Val on the top of that list for you?
Val is very high. Golbez, of course, not going to be an option for this tournament.
Right.
Mom Bomb. I really hate to fight Mom Bomb.
Yeah, especially early when you know you can't get over that 10k buffer. But, well, I know you like single dip in Fabul. Can I interest you in a single dip of Baron?
I mean, it's a nice concept, although we probably will have to go back for that Odin spot. At this point, I doubt, unless it's something very free, that PlumeriaKnight would be able to take out that basement location.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good call. And we'll see. I think one of the metas, or at least I don't even call it the meta, one of the main decisions I think runners have to make in this flag set is at what point do you abandon the attempt for key items and only do actions that are going to net you extra boss knowledge, which usually materializes in the form of when am I going to the moon? And of the spots I think you see people fade in this flag set, the Odin spot is pretty close to near the top. So we'll see how that goes. I would be shocked if either runner did not actually check the boss. But as far as completing it, we'll see. It has absolutely come into play in several races. Now, admittedly, I have not caught what CNC has pulled from the from Eblan Castle. I see Dragoon armor in chat. I mean, that is very stacked armor on CNC side. I would expect him to go all the way through. His lone tournament loss was a match where he took two. He took two of the three fights, and the third fight had an X-Cal, because of course it did. So let's see if we pull it.
Well, and right now, CNC's very stacked Cecil is wielding a dancing dagger, so please, anything is better than a dancing dagger.
I mean, he just wants to dance.
Dancing dagger, much less useful in Final Fantasy IV than Final Fantasy V.
Amen to that, and dancing in general. If you like use of the dance command, Final Fantasy V is your game. I'll leave that there.
But finding the guards that we did know were here, another free fight in a pretty easy location. These are bosses you would like to see in the moon, on the giant, on that hook route.
Yes, especially the hook route. I guess the only danger here is you don't want to just straight up hold A or use Berserk, because they will counter with size and Piggy for command. So that can be a bummer. But otherwise, you are absolutely right. This is a boss we would have rather seen on the moon. But hey, we still have the officer soldier fight, so there's that. CNC gets the what I consider a treasure jackpot of Stalemate is in the first chest. So if you have a save outside, you can now reset and take every chest on the way there. That's always a good feeling. But we got Quake, so we'll just cast Quake and Stalemate are gone. Oh, well, okay, one of them survived.
And CNC also having tons of not luck in Eblan, did not find anything, and oof, that is another zonk with just a Bacchus wine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, how would you feel in regards to this? Because I almost feel like in this tournament, Eblan Castle with the Cecil start is the expected route. So not pulling a Holy Sword from there doesn't necessarily feel as bad, because there's a strong chance your opponent did that. But I that can vary. Like, how do you feel about that?
I'm at every chest screaming, "Give me a crystal sword! Give me a crystal sword! Give me a crystal sword!"
Well, Burr's out in chat if we get one. But so, do you think CNC takes the Quad Ogres fight, or do we check to see who the hook boss is first?
I think he's probably going to take that Quad Ogres. Still, I think rocking a dancing dagger on that Cecil.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. Well, okay, so this is a blue robe, so it means it is one of two things, and neither of those are really that bad. Like, for option A is Water Hag, that is 100% free. Option B uh, is the gauntlet. And this gauntlet, if I remember correctly, two of them are eggs. So I don't think it's that bad of a gauntlet. So it'll be interesting to see. As Yin, it looks like you are absolutely correct. CNC is taking chest, so let's see if we pull something here. I think if the ogre chest doesn't pan out, well, I mean, can't give you the pan, but if it doesn't bear crystal sword shaped fruit, that is where I start to get a little bit concerned. Especially seeing the blue robe, but I think it is a totally reasonable course of action to take.
And meanwhile, on the other side, PlumeriaKnight has taken out both bosses here in Baron, has not found any value so far in terms of bosses. We'll see if maybe this pays out with a crystal sword in the trash can. Or not a crystal sword would be great too. A darkness crystal.
Yeah, that darkness crystal. Oh, okay. Well, it may actually get. I was about to say, Allie, you can't actually pull a tier 8 from a overworld location, but turns out maybe we actually can, because that's the Earth crystal. We can check the treasury. There is a 1% chance of pulling a tier 8, but we also get 16 chests. So if that actually has a crystal sword, now we've got the swing of CNC has taken all these fights in the name of crystal sword, hasn't actually pulled it. PlumeriaKnight may not have to do any of that. So let's it does open the doors for one of our favorite games that we like to pull around here. You know it and you love it.
Great That Treasury!
Stardust Rod, lots of gear for an edge that we're never going to have.
I think that's it. Like, of course, you pull a top tier edge weapon when we don't have edge in the party. That's generally how that works. But otherwise, like, as far as utility, that is an exceptionally strong treasury, I think.
Did have a
sword?
lightsaber. Yeah. It's not a crystal sword, it's not an X-Calb. It's also the best we've seen.
Yeah. And it's perfectly serviceable throughout pretty much the entire game, really. Like, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about holy swords, not because everything else is decidedly weak, but because X-Calibs and crystal swords are just absurdly strong. Sometimes you would see, check the first two chests on your way to Zod. Maybe Flame Doggo is holding a holy sword. It is possible, but getting a little bit of flashbacks here. The King Queen spot. It's an evil wall.
I think you somewhat called this, but Quake does good things to walls, apparently.
Yeah, so another example of CNC's previous actions kind of being rewarded, having pretty much end game defensive armor on his Cecil and being in the back row, in conjunction with Blink, is going to basically take care of that. But yeah, that particular boss in that particular spot can make for an absolutely horrible day. But CNC got through it, has another boss down. We've seen 4. We have not seen 5 because this is Water Hag. So this is not a free. This is one of those deceptive hook routes. I don't play this flag set much, but I think all you Falcon percent enjoyers out there can probably speak to how incredibly rude it is to see a boss that you believe to be free, so you dive the hook route, and then you run into that wall, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, the wall and Odin and Ogopogo in that spot when all you have are mages.
Well, I guess that's a good segue. While we see a turtle, very happy to see the turtle here, in Zot 1, to plug the Free Enterprise ladder. Schedule just went up for next season. So be sure to check that out when you're done here, if you enjoy yourself some Free Enterprise racing.
But CNC will be our first runner here underground, just under the 30-minute mark. Has not done nearly as many checks as PlumeriaKnight on the overworld, but will get access to all of these bosses down here.
Yeah, sub 30, a sub 30 underground time with having taken those chests. I mean, I understand you skipped some overworld things, but that is still a fantastic time, because we're going to at least get the discount double check from Fabul. Barradin isn't going to take very long, so I think both runners are feeling okay. Like a double zonk in Zot for PlumeriaKnight between Zot and Baron. Neither of those working out might look a little bad on the surface, but I don't think there's a world where CNC fades the Baron key. Is there?
He would have to start finding every boss remaining, just one after another. And for all we know, this could be the all-magical darkness crystal.
Well, it's breakfast somewhere, so for somebody. We're gonna have some more eggs, more experience for CNC's side. I know CNC did pull, or well, never mind. I'm conflating the two racers. If you can get Palom up to a point where he hits relative agility 1, and yes, there will be a point in time probably where I give the agility monologue, but there is an option of going through Sylph Cave with a relative agility 1 Palom, casting Quake, and of course 36 HP short of the egg, the old Edge special. But yeah, that's another option to pull a Holy Sword, would be to just go through the Sylph Cave with an RA1 Palom.
So I would be more interested in trying to do the Warrior's Chest. My 2v2 partner taught me how to do that.
Nice.
With that Palom, I can do it exactly if you tell me where everybody goes, but it is possible to get a Quake off with 1 HP and they not get an action.
Yep. If Palom is RA1, either a battle speed 3 or a run buffered through a battle speed 1 will get the job done, whatever is more comfortable for you. Either one will work. But to get that, Palom has to have 2.5 times the agility of our anchor Tella, rounded up. Tella's probably sitting at about 8 or 9, so it's going to take a little while. I'm interested to see how far does CNC actually take this. Do you think CNC goes all the way to nuke?
Well, he has that looks like two key items, so nowhere near getting that 10 key item bonus. Doesn't know where the darkness crystal is. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the main issue would be
that is a hard zonk, a silent staff.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, I think that where this really hurts PlumeriaKnight would be in the universe where CNC decides, I'm not going to take that Baron key. Now, going all the way to nuke is, one of the precursors, I think, to doing that. Nuke is not just the main plot line of RoboCop 2, it is also arguably the best spell in the game along with Quake. Exceptional damage, 0 cast time, 50 MP is not a problem when you are at the levels required for it, in this case 52. So yeah, it could also be get enough levels to where if you see a boss here in the Fay March that you can comfortably take it down.
And can we take a minute to talk about that Baron shop with tiaras and sorcerer robes? That's a fantastic shop.
Yeah, Sorc Robe is basically what you want to have on your mages. White shirt would be a little better for Rosa, but Sorc Robe is perfectly fine, especially given her HP count. And PlumeriaKnight, having done all of those overall checks, little less excited about taking on the trap chest. I think is going to just we'll do some looting here because with the first chest, Staleman can now loot everything in here, but it's probably going to go all the way through.
And we see Coffee and Chocobos stopping at the Marriott. I don't know that we've seen camping gear. And yeah, that is my favorite item to buy outside of life potions is cabins.
Yeah. I will habitually overshop hoping to pull one of them. And when I see tents, I always buy like 20 or 30 just out of spite. Like, I should talk to the people who did these flag sets about it. Oh, wait.
Xenocat pointing out in chat, we did see camping gear in Baron. So do you know if it was tents or cabins? Because one of them is better than the other. It was a one-stop shop of both.
Oh. I'm trying to think of the name of the store chain where you would buy camping gear, but it has escaped me. Opportunity
Bass Pro
lost.
Shop?
There you go. That's one. All right, so it doesn't look like 34 minutes in. I know CNC skipped a lot of the overworld, but 2 key items at 34 minutes. Kind of feels a little bit of a bummer. Now, one difference here, and we'll see if Plumeria does this, absent a Darkness Crystal, maybe not. But you see, when we go to Dwarf Castle, there's that purple robe dancing around. PlumeriaKnight, while I didn't catch it, has seen who the second boss is in Dwarf Castle, because that is the sprite that zaps you where Golbez used to be. It's a sparkle. Awesome. Thank you, chat.
That narrows it down to 3 bosses.
Right, and none of the ones we need, right? Because we've seen D-Lunars, PlumeriaKnight has completed that check, so we'll know the second boss is not required. We'll see the first one is not required. It is entirely possible that you could reset out and go elsewhere, but absent the Darkness Crystal, it's a tough proposition. It is a gamble like many things in this flag set are.
And chat pointing out that we have seen 3 bosses, so it is either a Pale Dim or a Wyvern. That's like the 2 extremes.
How do you feel about second boss Blarg?
If it's going to be... There are a handful of places that if I'm going to have to fight Wyvern, I'd rather it be there, and that and the top of tower are probably my 2 top ones.
Oh, I'm the opposite. Top of the tower is the worst spot for me because it has a high enough HP that 20,000. It doesn't do a lot of damage because it's magic, but it does just enough to where your party probably can't withstand it. But yeah, I think that's totally sensible. And hey, this sort of pattern is kind of the inspiration for one of my hopes to see would be a GIF of Wyvern spitting out save icons and emojis, because second boss Wyvern has definitely cost people some time.
But CNC's Rosa doesn't even take damage, and Kane and Cecil still standing up. This is a perfect just kill the Tella and get more experience.
Yeah, magic here is I think one of the lowest in the game. It's very low. There, it is entirely possible to even see like Tella or Edward dodge the nuke there. So yeah, Dwarf Castle down. Let's see what the key item is. And if you're CNC and you pull it, well, let's see what the item is here. But I do wonder at what point does CNC start to go back to the overworld. Oh, well, I think we kind of know where we might be going next.
Well, and I do believe there was a leg sprite at the top of tower, so you know that there's a 50-50 chance that is your that is a required boss. I would imagine we are going to see a full tower clear here.
Yeah, 50-50s are not just for Leo players. They are for free enterprise players. When it comes to the Ruby sprite, it can be elements, it can be Ruby. And I think there's an argument where if you pull a Darkness Crystal, you probably check that anyway. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm over here laughing about Tickle Me Wyvern.
Okay, I just got a mental picture of that where instead of like laughing, you just hear go. Okay. The next time we all get to meet together in person, someone needs to be commissioned to make a Wyvern doll happen, please.
Okay, I'm good. So I feel like I always see the Darkness Crystal at the top of tower. So I'm betting that CNC is hoping that that is also the case. And at that point, do you start face checking bosses up on the moon?
I'm sorry. The Tickle Me, now I'm imagining the packaging for a Tickle Me Wyvern doll with like a "try me out here" on the side of the package, and then a little kid pushes that and blar. I'm sorry.
This is a required boss.
And you're like, Mommy, I want to get the Tickle Me Wyvern doll. I don't know. This is kind of dangerous here.
Speaking of Tickle, that glare only doing 181 damage.
Yeah, and expertise. One thing that does not tickle for Wyvern, for Ruby Kyvern, for Ruby here is the Ice 3, and Ice 3 has a pretty significant cast time. So timing that in a spot that is fast. I mean, I think we've all been down the road where we accidentally healed Ruby for like 2,000 damage with our Ice 3. That's just it's not easy. So well done. That is another boss down for CNC, and if it goes back to the overworld, is gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, it's the same combination as my luggage. Oh, make that 6. That's a gauntlet.
This is definitely my second favorite place to see the gauntlet because it is just so trolly.
Okay, is Tickle Me Ruby flammable? I feel like there are problems getting that through QA. Anyway, we've got this gauntlet is it's more experience than you're generally going to get from this spot. Is this the one that has the tofu? No, I can't make fun of my 2v2 partner.
I think this is definitely the one that has the tofu, and even though it gives you more experience, it takes significantly more time than you would like to take at a 500 HP spot.
Ah, there they are. Shoutouts to Marty. All slimes cannot be damaged. Well, I mean, they can with attacks, but you're only going to be one. So you generally don't want to have to take on a fight like this when you have no magic whatsoever. But no problem for CNC. Virus takes care of all that. And that is... We know where 6 bosses are. Yeah, this could get incredibly dicey if we pull a Darkness Crystal here. PlumeriaKnight is going to get some levels up. Some eggs, that's always good to see. And let's see what the next play is. It might be quite some time before we actually see a boss now that we haven't seen before. So my question to you, other than more free enterprise related dolls, would be how do you feel about prioritizing the Sheila 1 check in this flag set?
I think it all depends on exactly what comes out of this tower check. If it is another gating key item, I'm less inclined. But if it's just another Silent Staff or Bacchus Wine, I'm absolutely going to go see what Sheila 1 has.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen races where was that the pass?
That was the pass.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely not sad to see that the boss give a required boss and a pass. So you're definitely happy about the value you got from Tower Key. But we have definitely seen races where lots of bosses, or even just 2, were behind that Sheila 1 check, and it gets put off for quite a bit.
But we see PlumeriaKnight going ahead and going to have to double dip this tower, not knowing that there are 2 required bosses here. Whereas it looks like CNC gonna go back to that Baron Inn. I do suspect we are going to see Baron Inn straight into Baron.
Yeah, I think so. This is the question where I think all the questions we were talking about kind of come together, right? If that Sheila 1 had the Darkness Crystal, does CNC take the Baron Key? Absent of the Darkness Crystal, I think the answer to that is no. He's going to go through the Baron Key and the Earth Crystal. So that's good news on PlumeriaKnight side. And I think what we had talked about earlier, when you can see the second boss of Dwarf Castle, is kind of lowering Dwarf Castle on the priority list above the 50-50 check that we're getting here. So that could be the reason. I think Possum has mentioned that in chat as well. That could be the reason here why we're seeing Tower first. But yeah, that is going to very likely be a double dip.
And maybe chat remembers. I do not remember who was at the Fay March. I'm sure it wasn't a required boss, but does chat remember what was there?
Dark Elf and Antlion. Well, fortunately, those are not split, because Antlion at Leviathan, that can be spot number 28. That I'll check. That we can put that off till next tournament. But yeah, I don't think those are too difficult bosses. We'd like to see. Or wait, that's right. We have the lights. Well, PlumeriaKnight has the Lightbringer. CNC will probably get one in about 5 to 10 minutes. So that Dark Elf, not a big deal at all. Yeah, we're running out of spots though for this Darkness Crystal though, right?
I think, yeah, it's either got to be Fay March or Sheila 1.
Or Odin.
Oh yeah, or Odin. I've totally never forgotten Odin on a seed before.
On one hand, us forgetting about it kind of illustrates the point pretty well of Odin being a spot that is checked toward the bottom. On the other hand, the idea of saying, well, we don't we're just gonna skip Odin for the rest of the seed, and then it has the darkest crystal in your last location, and you're like, so. Yeah, top of tower on its own doesn't pay off for PlumeriaKnight in the same way it did last race. Yes, I'm still salty, and is going to head to Fay March, and we'll see if either of those bosses are one that PlumeriaKnight decides to take, or if this is a check your freebie situation.
Chat pointing out a very important fact that we have forgotten.
Oh,
Nobody has done Fabul.
what about Fabul? Yeah, that if that's darkest crystal, there is concerns. I think when it comes to runners of this, when you are running this game, you feel one of two ways: you feel behind, or you feel more behind. Part of that has to do with the idea that you kind of tend to get the notion that your opponent is playing as perfectly as possible. But the other is just that you will notice those things, every bad scenario, and the notion that you're a Zatella in your party, and if you had access to that darkest crystal at the 10-minute mark with 3 mages, concern. There is concern.
Yes. And I mean, both runners have faded it, so there's just that feeling of they're both would be playing as if they were very behind.
Yeah, up against a D machine would be the concern. Although, wouldn't a plushie alert just be the most adorable thing on the planet?
If it has like a little place where little like where
you push the button and it goes.
Well, and like little other toys come out of it.
Oh, that would be like a little mini D machine is inside. Oh. These are all ideas that we need to put together for Free Enterprise Con in 2026. Oh, hey, Coffins! Frankly, have these runners seen like a total of 3 shops total?
I think PlumeriaKnight definitely chucked more shops in terms of finding camping gear, but we've just got the whole gambit of everything that you would want out of these shops: coffins, sirens, hourglasses.
Yeah. Did we see Bacchus wine?
I don't know that we've seen Bacchus wine yet.
Okay.
Maybe the bunnies?
Yeah. Bacchus is one of the things I would check the moon shop for. But now CNC is going to go and get the antline cave down. Lord knows we contain multitudes of memes, and fading antline is definitely one of those things. But this is another spot where if chat's going back to the try me on the tickle me wyvern. Stop. This is another spot where if you see the darkest crystal here, you're like, uh-oh, danger.
Oh, definitely. And I wonder if CNC going to check all of these overworld shops, including that Fabul defense, but only finding the sand ruby, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, still only 7 key items.
Yeah, we haven't seen a whole lot. Yeah, that like usually pan is kind of the prerequisite to getting 10. But another question for you: I noticed our runners both have the adamant. Before I go into more Free Enterprise toy related questions, how do you, if we pull the Legend Sword, we can actually go to Kokol and get a chance at pulling a super item. How do you feel about the prospect of forging on this flag set?
If I was PlumeriaKnight, probably not, because I do have that lightsaber and it is good enough. I don't know that Coffee and Chocobos has anything better than that dancing dagger still. Maybe a rune axe.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely go to Kokos at that point.
All right. PlumeriaKnight tried the Tickle Me Wyvern and only Kane got hit. Karmically, that is sound. And Dwarf Castle is down. We'll get the tower key. We'll feel a little bad about double dipping. I do think you kind of have to check that tower boss. And while we are kind of doing... Oh, wait. This is... I don't think we've seen Octomom. Is this the Fubul defense right here?
This is the Fubul defense. This would be a new check.
Did CNC go talk to Yang first? Are we getting the discount double check, or is this just?
I don't think we've seen Self Cave, so this will be at least a double dip, if not a triple.
Yeah, and now that good call. That was going to be my next question: is do we now reset out of this to do whatever the next check is, which I think is either Sheila 1 or Case Summon bot. Oh wait. Got the Earth Crystal. We gotta check the treasury. I don't do commentary very often. Do we rate the treasury twice?
No.
Okay. All right. So next free enterprise toy proposition. Have you've seen those little splash pools that you put out there? That I know I got one for my dog where it's like a kiddie pool, but it has like little mini fountains that spit out water. What about that, but as a Kainazo doll, like a little Kainazo pool toy?
Would it float?
Yes, but it has a special option where, if the temperature is not right, it hides inside its shell.
I love it.
There could be like a Leviathan. Like Ribbon says, there's a Leviathan on one side and an Ogo on another side doing waves. There you go.
But as you said, PlumeriaKnight is going to go ahead and check this tower. Sees that it is the Alt Gauntlet. Going to go ahead, make sure that Pelham has plenty of MP to take care of this very quickly.
And I think we're at the agility point now where. So another good example here of why you check the boss first. Having Pelham go first means you can potentially get the action out, especially if he is RA1. And I guess this would be the time for me to talk about agility. What do you think?
I mean, probably.
All right. So, agility in Final Fantasy IV is probably one of the more confusing things, I think, for folks who are new at this game, and the way FF4 handles it is pretty unique. And I think the best way I like to try to put it for someone who is trying to understand it is understand that when you talk about like speed in general, you talk about the slowest would be 0 and the fastest would be forever, and Final Fantasy IV is the opposite. There is a maximum amount of speed you can go, and there is a no limit to how slow you can be. Ask Inven about that when it comes to Kaiko guards. But anyway, so the way agilities or turn order is figured out in this game is you take the anchor of the party, which in this case is going to be the middle character of the seed. Every actor's speed, whether it's the enemy or the remainder of your party members, is going to be how much faster or slower they are than that anchor character. The fastest you could be would be what we would call relative agility 1. So we spit out all the agility numbers into the formula. We come out with one number, and that number is used to represent their agility. When we say relative agility 1, imagine like it's an ATB bar, right, that you see like in FF6 or FF7, where you have to fill up blocks before you can go. So if you were relative agility 5, you have to fill up 5 of those blocks. Take that's standard. If you're relative agility 1, you only have to fill up 1 of those blocks, so you're going super fast. You can't go less than 1, right? So that's as fast as you can be. To accomplish that, you need to have 2.5 times the agility, rounding up, of the character who is the anchor. So if your anchor is 10, you need to be at least 26. Um, so that can be a challenge, right? If you're a character who has a very high agility, like, Edge, and you have 30, well, no one's going to be RA1. That's a bummer. But what if we made it really, really slow? So if you're ever wondering why you see races where Iridia is down at level 1, or you have a curse string, that's because you've given them as minimal agility as possible. So to clear that speed limit, it's a very low bar to set. So that's why you see Tella not getting levels. That's why Curse Ring is so important. You give them 1 agility, and now you only need 3 to hit that max speed. Now, the practical applications of that are twofold. One, if, we're humans, right? We have to input menu time. And if ATB is just going super, super, super fast, we're going to cost ourselves time. So ideally, we would want something that is going to take our actions for us. And we have a command that does that. That is Berserk. That's why Berserk plus RA1 is so powerful. The downside is that while, yes, you are making your own party super fast, you are also making the bosses super fast. They also are at max speed. So if you're doing this with mages, a little bit of danger there. And it's why you generally hear the advice being, if you are early in the game, give yourself a high agility anchor. This way, you still maintain that speed advantage. If you're later in the game where all the bosses are stupid fast and you don't want them to cheat, that's when you take advantage of the system and you give yourself a low agility anchor. So that's how agility works. As it pertains to running free enterprise, hopefully somebody watching learned something today and I didn't put people to sleep. But we are now going to the point where we are checking bosses at the package. That's we only need 1 more. So there's a couple different payoffs for this package. What do you think?
I think we find that Mom Bomb. That actually, both bosses in the package spot would be absolutely disgusting, and I am here for it. PlumeriaKnight also going to be checking that Sheila 1. Did try to pull a Holy Sword out of some of those trap chests on the way. Unfortunately, didn't find anything better than Artemis arrows.
Yeah, that's Artemis arrows. Not they have their play, but there's also another thing. It's like if you're here for package bosses, chat had mentioned this. Are you here for package demist gating multiple bosses?
That's very fair. You find that demist here in this spot, you've got another key item check, and I would love to see a darkness crystal behind the demist at package. That would be fantastic.
If I'm running a seed and that happens to me, my head is exploding. I'm just saying. But if it pays off, that is huge. But yeah, we're looking for either a demist or one of the remaining bosses. That would put us in the unique situation of go mode with a pass and without a darkness crystal. You don't see a lot of these seeds where you don't even have to raise the big whale, but it is on the table. Let's see who the boss is here. It's just Dark Knight Cecil.
Unfortunately, not one of the bosses we need. So looks like CNC going to check the Odin spot. Definitely a heads up play, leave a save here. Immediately go take out these dolls with Quake. And then I think we're going to start seeing our K summon checks.
Yeah, I think at this point you 100% take that fight. 1 Quake should get this down. There would be a little bit of concern if you didn't have good agility set up that the Quake might be a little too slow, but I think the offense here, especially with half the dolls being in the back row, not a huge deal. And we just pulled a harp from Sheila 1. That is frightening.
Harp having another key item, another boss check. This is big.
Yeah, on the tier list of spots you'd like to fade before going to the moon, or fade in general, Harp is pretty high up there. It's not S tier, but it is definitely significant. But I think we're missing the Darkest Crystal, and that puts us at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Darkest Crystal will give us 9. Grinding at 9 key items never feels great, but here we are. Doesn't look like the Odin spot gave us anything, so CNC looks to be clearing the Fay March bosses now.
This does make sense in terms of 2 bosses in 1 spot, and 2 potential key items. But all we need is 1 boss, and this is a boss we haven't seen, so this could put PlumeriaKnight just directly in go mode, could give us our Darkness Crystal, could lead to a Pan, a Rat Tail, both gating key items, a Luca key. Ooh, a Luca key. Music into a Luca key would be awful.
Yeah, and while there's a lot that can happen between now and the end of the race, this does seem to be the main deciding point. That is, who finds the Darkest Crystal first. Because I would imagine both runners are very likely going to just immediately face check anything. Sometimes you have to take into consideration, like, am I leaving possible key items in the moon? How many bosses do I have? But given how late we're finding the Darkest Crystal, I'd be pretty surprised if the runners did otherwise. Now, coming from Sheila 1 on its own, that might cause a discussion inside my head, but from the heart, I still think it's something you take. I think best case for PlumeriaKnight here would actually be pull a Pan going into Darkest Crystal to get both the Darkness and 10 key items.
Unfortunately, that Tella not magnetized. That's a Pan.
Oh boy, that. So now you're like, if only I would have had that lightsaber when I first came here, and then I could have did the 1 trip wool. But yeah, while we're here, I'm gonna check Antlion. I wouldn't blame CNC if there was an immediate exit, but this is also very much reasonable. Are gonna get our example of heart music. So Rivers used to tell me on comms, you always talk through harp. So no, I'm just kidding. That didn't actually happen. Let's listen to some music. Oh, gee. Okay.
You have to wait.
All right. So, on one hand, we got the Pan check, so that's going to be 2 checks from CNC. PlumeriaKnight also is going to get 2 checks because we found the Demist, and there is the Darkness Crystal. So definitely advantage PlumeriaKnight for now. I wouldn't be surprised to see a check of the Demist item just to hope to get key item number 10. That would make getting to Z levels a snap. And furthermore, I'm not certain we see a line of or a scenario where PlumeriaKnight has to check the Fay March bosses. So unless that led, this happens to be Well, we only have what, Luca Cave left, right? So I don't think we see PlumeriaKnight check this Fay March.
Yeah, I think this has to be exactly Luca for. Oh, I guess not.
Well then, I heard you wanted access to all your bosses. That was a really good call, by the way.
I mean, every once in a while.
So, like, from a spectator standpoint, I actually think that the best case scenario now for CNC, like, it has to check this Twin Harp. I think there's literally nothing else to do. Would be to check the Giant. It is very difficult to gauge, I think, where your opponent is at when there's a required Twin Harp on the table.
Absolutely. Twin Harp, most runners will go ahead and fade that. But this is the last check for CNC, so going to be immediately behind PlumeriaKnight. Plumeria, of course, having to scramble some eggs at 10 key items, because we got the Luca key.
Yep.
I promise I won't count on stream again, chat.
Oh, I mean, it's lunchtime for my dog, so y'all are probably going to hear it. But Artemis arrows, we did say those have some particular uses. This is one of them.
Definitely. You don't have to worry if Palom is going to betray us just like Cain and not get enough damage in to kill an egg in one hit. Artemis arrow is going to do tons of damage. Tella, please.
So there is one caveat here. I obviously I think with Tella getting levels, he clearly has a cursed ring, and cursed ring does minus 15 agility. But there is one particular quirk of the game where if you have 0 agility, the game reads you as fast as possible. So that's why Tella went first, had 0 agility, just got to get him enough levels to be above that, and you're fine to go.
But I think this is going to take us all the way to Nuke.
Yeah.
Looking at experience and HP, I don't think we're far off.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And looking at the key items that PlumeriaKnight has access to everything now. The only event that PlumeriaKnight actually needs to take a boss that is not a required boss would be checking Giant 2. And even then, like, you have access to everything else, so you can just do Giant 2 last. So at this point, you got 10 key items. PlumeriaKnight just going to go to the levels that he feels comfortable taking the Zeromus fight in. If it's not a required boss, just reset, and then you are good to go. But we do get Darkness Crystal from CNC here. Can make up a little bit of time if the decision is to just go into the moon. We don't talk on second harp.
No.
Okay, well, Demus is down.
But these runners are too fast. I can't see levels, but it looks like PlumeriaKnight gonna go ahead and take a cabin. We'll see if this is in order to go ahead and head to the Giant or start face checking moon bosses.
Yeah, let's see what the plays. Oh, you know what? PlumeriaKnight might not have even. I don't know. Did PlumeriaKnight check the Odin spot before? Is this a
It
knowledge?
did not.
Okay, so then yeah, that is this 100% makes sense. Check this first. May not even need to raise the whale, so you would doubly save time there. But CNC having the wherewithal to to think I can't waste time with this pan. There's only one boss I don't have access to anyway, so is going to immediately head up. There is the decision of do you check the Luca key first to hope to avoid the whale, but I think that starts to creep into being time inefficient. But it looks like we're racing the whale, so it looks like Luca key is going to be on the back burner. I mean, that would be one way CNC could get back in this, right? Would be to if he had checked that the Demist spot and pulled a Luca key. But I mean, that you're playing against some pretty unfavorable percentages for that.
Now, if you're these runners and you go to the moon, do you go bottom up?
No, I think especially needing one, I in general I think you go top down, because I think the penalty for going bottom and missing is more severe than the penalty of going top and missing. Now, if it does end up being on the bottom, then the pass ends up not really being significant at all because you can just walk. But if there is a way you can get away with not having to do a full LST walk, I think you do it. Sure enough.
And if we were going to find one of the two, Golbez is the better of the two in that spot. Just
yeah,
because
LST.
Mom Bomb is awful.
Yeah, very good point. These are two completely different threat levels when it comes to boss fights. Magic is piddly in this spot, so Golbez, for a low level party, would still do a pretty decent amount, but is not nearly as significant as if we were in like the Ogo spot, whereas the physical damage here is tied for the highest in the game, I believe. Or if it's not there, it's very close. So Mob Bomb would be incredibly dangerous because it's going to punch a lot and it would get an extra 10k HP before you actually get to the baby bombs. So yeah, Golbez here is pretty fantastic to find. We see a Venom out just to give the guarantee of getting the Starveil out. You'd really like to have Bacchus Wine. You have one. He's going to use it here. I don't know.
Looks like doesn't want to use the Bacchus, but does get heal off, gets a Starveil.
Yeah, I think the threat is like, especially wielding a lightsaber, I think you're kind of okay. But like one of the main benefits, I won't say the main benefit, but one of the other significant benefits to being relative agility 1 is that if you are berserked with a Starveil on, it never goes away because every action you're taking is swing that sword. So the game never gets around to removing the wall. And since Golbez only casts magic spells, if you have a Bacchus Wine and a Starveil and you're relative agility 1, you can put your controller down. Fight's over. So, but CNC, missing those levels from the egg grind, wants the experience. So, makes sense too.
And we see CNC getting through that Golbez. PlumeriaKnight about a minute and a half behind, but does have the advantage of having done his grind already.
See, CNC. I see what you did there.
There's the crystal, though.
Oh, we could forge. We can forge now.
I don't think we're forging.
I don't get to talk about littering in Agart. Bummer.
And we're poisoned. Fantastic.
The poison walk. So we talk about how you're not going to see forge because the chances are very low of pulling that item. But if you did, and you need some way to skip levels, a Gigant Axe, an Abel's Lance, even a Lightbringer would significantly increase the damage to the point of possibly only seeing one Big Bang here. But yeah, CNC, I think, also making the good call of go in right now. I think this is absolutely the right call, and we are going to head into our final boss. Allie, I believe there's something special about this boss. Whatever could that be?
Well, you see, we can't put Zeromus at Antlion because he's too big, too bad, and nobody wants that except for me. But Zeromus likes to cosplay, and Zeromus has now 570 outfits, even more than that, I think, now, and wants to show off, hey, I can be randomized too, so let me show off my awesome cosplay. And we like to ask a couple of questions. Would you like to do the honors this afternoon?
Sure. Whose butt are we going to kick today, and is it Tickle Me Wyvern? Or maybe it's the alert plushie with baby D machines in his pocket.
And PlumeriaKnight going to be directly behind, heading straight to Troya. Does have the level advantage. About somebody will do the math to tell me how far behind.
Yeah, I don't think there's a clear answer here. If I had to guess, I would give Plumeria a very, very slight advantage here. Menuing time is going to calculate into this as well. Rosa's HP at 1880, not great. The possibility of getting KO'd by a full Big Bang is certainly there. Sork Robe will help. If we bought the tiara, that is not a stuffed animal, then that would help too. But that's also the danger here. As far as weapons go, though, I think we're on the same thing. Just Palom is wielding that weapon known as the nuke spell. So
Nuke does wonderful things. As you said, a better weapon for any of our characters would be great. Lightbringer or Light Sword, not the Lightbringer, is definitely not the dream, but it'll get it done.
Yeah, and absent Bacchuswine here, a little slow on getting the Zerks out. It's going to be a little tricky to see if we can get to the point where we can skip that first Big Bang. Generally with Zerkers, you want around 5k HP per round. We are not doing 5k HP per round. Maybe Nuke pulls that here, but having to cast Zerk with Tella is kind of a clue that we need some extra damage pushing out. Let's see if the Nuke gets us there. It should get us there on PlumeriaKnight's side, but that one extra Big Bang when you've got a Rosa with 1800 HP is not great.
Yeah, as you said, Sork Robe can help with that, and then sometimes Zeromus just says, I don't care. You take nap now.
Yeah, Kane kind of showing why he's the king of average. That's not fantastic damage. Like the viruses here will help, but I think the first indication is going to be whether or not we get, like, there's the shake for it. Is it what we call a fake shake, to where you get the pull or you get the phase change? That's going to be a big deal. PlumeriaKnight not going to have to deal with that at all. Smartly, is casting Nuke directly for his nerf, because when you have relative agility 1 Zerkers, slow on Zeromus is not significant. Everyone is going maximum speed and taking auto command, so not a huge deal. Tella gets hit by the counter nuke. That's absolutely perfect. This is going exactly how PlumeriaKnight wants us to go.
Unfortunately, we see on CNC side that Rosa, while only getting 212 damage done, still enough to take her down, but does smartly have a life potion already queued up.
Yeah, the nerf was sound, so that's why that managed to work out as well. We are definitely going to see, or no, we are definitely not going to see a black hole, because we did switch phases. So if we only had the Zerkers and they had to take the wheel, that would be a wipe. So nicely done so far by CNC. PlumeriaKnight hoping like this second nuke should get us there. Oh, and we're also casting white as well. Yeah, we got that there. So this is going to be really close. I think PlumeriaKnight sees rocks first, but CNC is in the next phase.
We do see a nuke come out onto that Cecil. Not who you want to see it come out on. Definitely don't want half of your damage to go down at this point. There is the Big Bang.
Does Rosa survive? Oh, that's right. It was nerfed correctly. All right, so far so good. Cecil does manage to survive at 200 HP. You'd like to get that Palom up just to pull an Excelsior and give him something else to shoot at, but might not be enough. We got Cure 3 coming out on PlumeriaKnight's side, getting that Rosa topped off. Here comes the black hole. We don't have Bacchus Wine, so we got to manually cast Zerk here. Let's see.
There's another white on PlumeriaKnight's side. PlumeriaKnight definitely putting in more damage per round. I think this is going to come down to the wire, folks.
Yeah, I think CNC has to see rocks very soon.
Kane does live, but I believe that is PlumeriaKnight with the crack boom, and PlumeriaKnight taking it right down to the wire. We'll get an official time here in just a second. That is 1:24:17. PlumeriaKnight is our winner for this afternoon, and we'll see if we can't get them in for an interview.
Yeah, kind of shows the difference of what happens when you have the levels. This is why grind early, grind often is something that is said quite frequently. Even if you come into the Z fight second, having those levels and hitting that damage plateau of the nuke spell and Palom can be the difference in the Z fight. In this case, it was super close. It absolutely got it done.
And there is CoffeeAndChocobos, just about a minute behind. 1:25:16, 59 seconds. GG's to him as well. And I do believe we are going to be joined in an interview shortly. We are joined by both our runners. GG's to both of you. How are y'all feeling?
Oh, my heart's racing, that's for sure.
I don't know. I'm just kind of winding down right now.
So I guess the main question for both of you would be revolving around that darkness crystal. Thoughts on your approach when you go through all the checks that each of you went through and you're basically looking for that?
Yeah, I guess darkness felt like go mode for a while, even before I got to the 6th boss. So it was definitely interesting that these bosses just kind of kept showing up, making it more and more desirable. I guess, to find the darkness crystal. And then there was a little temptation, even just that you didn't even need the darkness crystal, like maybe sealed cave or something. But yeah, so just kind of an interesting scenario that played out.
Yeah, having 6 bosses done after sweeping the underground and coming back up, finding the Baron Key, finding a couple easy bosses up in Baron Inn and Antlion. It was just like, well, can I find that 7th boss without needing the Darkness Crystal? I've got the pass in hand, and then it's just like running through all the checks, see if that Luca Key does pop up and one of the bosses is there. But it turned out that Baron Basement didn't have anything, Zot didn't have anything. Fay March had the pan, which kind of led to Sheila 1 and the Darkness Crystal, but you didn't even need the pan.
Yeah, I think you referenced something we had talked about on commentary as to whether or not, especially in your case, PlumeriaKnight, checking the Luca Key with the possibility of not having to raise the big whale. For CC's, you guys might have discussed this already. That Demus did give the Luca Key, so that option was certainly there. Do you want to possibly not do the wave, but you made the decision to 6 is greater than 1. Check the moon bosses, and it worked out.
Yeah, having Golbez in K value was kind of a blessing and a curse too. It's like, okay, great, there's your 7th boss. Who got the Darkness Crystal first?
Yep.
Yeah, and I tried to fast anchor that fight, and it didn't go quite as well as I hoped it would.
Yeah, I had 2 crystal rings, and I got lucky that Cecil didn't get offed also, so I was able to toss a heal on him, and he walled up, and then Bacchus with my 1 Bacchus that I found, and it made fairly short work of him.
The Bacchus were for sale in the moon shop, so I had a nice stack. I didn't find any.
Yeah, that was another point as to we weren't sure if you were going to use the Bacchus wine to give yourself the guaranteed win on Golbez. Yeah, like that. I would 100% recommend both of you watching this back. This was super duper close. For reference, CNC was in the Z fight first, and the power of the grind you made, it was the difference in the end. But yeah, definitely watch this back. I think you two both put on an exquisite display of how to get through even like a particularly rude Darkness Crystal location, given everything else you had seen, and y'all handle it very well. Allie, did you have any questions?
Probably the most important question from chat tonight or this afternoon is Tickle Me Wyvern or Tickle Me Rubicant?
Tickle Me Rubicant because he's red.
I'm gonna go with Tickle Me Wyvern, just because that Mega Nuke is a warming comfort. Didn't even take out my party in Dwarf.
I think one of you had only one person get hit by the nuke, which was kind
of 3 of my
because it was only
died.
Kane.
Yeah,
it checks out with the story.
It was quite humorous.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you both for putting on just a fantastic show. PlumeriaKnight, I believe you are moving on to play next week. Your opponent, your opponent for both of your prospective opponent for both of you has been known for a little while now. It is McBain. So, any thoughts on how you want to approach the next week?
Well, I go from one of the best runners in Free Enterprise, Flurry, who is of course yourself, and then I go into another of the best runners in CNC, and now I get to face another of the top runners in McBain. So it's kind of like my own personal alt gauntlet,
That's a good way to put it. There's when I think in this bracket when you go through the winning side, there's no easy there were no easy matches from the jump, right? And
Right.
and you get deeper and deeper and deeper, and the alt gauntlet continues. So yeah, I would definitely be excited to see how that match goes. It's definitely on my radar. Did the two of you have any last words before we hop out of here?
Just gonna say nobody.
Just GG to CNC.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say nobody likes a rude alt gauntlet on the backside of the moon, but if anybody can take it at this point, you've proven you can. GG's and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, and GG to you as well. You're an amazing player, and it was a fun race.
Thank you.
All right, that is going to wrap things up on our end. We will. This is the last match of the week, so we should have the matches posted up for scheduling probably tomorrow morning. Could be later tonight, but we will let y'all know, and we will have our next round for the Red Moon. Waxing has completed. So we will be doing Waning from going further on. I believe next week we also have Blue Moon Waxing finals. Allie, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We do have our finals for Blue Moon Waxing.
All right, so be sure to check that out. Check out the Blue Moon Waning matches. You've all been exceptionally fun. Allie, this has been an absolute pleasure. We have created a marketing line for a free enterprise merchandising that we will have to follow up on at some point in time. But it has been a blast.
Absolutely. It's this team has been great. Of course, thank you to Cubs for putting on the show. Thank you for Fried Potato for pushing the buttons and keeping us in line, because we got a little distracted there. And as always, Flurry, it's always a pleasure just to be in voice with you and to get to do comms with you.
Yeah, it has been really fun coming back to the comms booth for this tournament, and definitely hope to get more of it. So I believe we will be sending you all over to RPG Limit Break. Is that correct?
Actually, we are going to send y'all over to Lady Arcaders. They are putting on their last tournament. Lady Arcaders is a female-run speedrunning group who has featured Free Enterprise in the past. They're good people. They're very awesome. And they are playing, it looks like Hitman 2. So yeah, just go give them some love. They're just awesome. And y'all are awesome.
Yep. So we will catch you all next week. Thanks again for checking this out, and we'll see you next time. Let's go Mets.
Later, y'all. Have a good night.